All right. It's been a long time coming here, but for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Studio Series 86 Leader Class Swoop. Finally, we actually have the last of our Leader Class Dinobots here. It's been quite a long journey getting all five of them, and yeah, Swoop is a pretty fun figure, all things considered. He's not my favorite one of them. I think that still significantly Grimlock is better than the other four, but he's a fun figure, all things considered. He's got a nice big dino mode here with a nice like long, wingspan here. He's got a great looking head sculpt there for the pterodactyl mode or pteranodon or whatever Swoop is supposed to be. Just, 80s flying dinosaur. But yeah, there's a few things I don't really like about his alt mode. Like, I sort of wish the head wasn't like sticking up quite as far as it was. Obviously, the feet are quite chunky for how it folds around for transformation. And then probably my least favorite thing about the whole figure is just how his robot mode arms are just kind of hanging out underneath the wings there. Like, yeah, this is a leader class figure with a leader class budget. We couldn't have figured out something more clever to happen with these arms here, hey? Yeah, that's not my favorite thing. They're really just like not integrated with the body at all. Like, luckily in most angles you're looking at them like that, like it doesn't really make that big of a difference, but yeah, that does kind of bum me out. But whatever. Other than that, he's got a fairly nice alt mode here. In terms of the accessories that he comes with, he does come with his missile launchers here, which just come in two different parts. The missiles themselves are on a slightly more like soft plastic, just because I imagine they're used on the same tooling as like the head crest here, which neither of them are like super floppy or anything. They just have a bit of flex to them, which doesn't really get in the way of either one. It's just worth mentioning, but you can just plug those in here. It's nice that they do come as separate pieces, so you could like attach a blast effect here and then attach the missile to the blast effect, so it's actually like launching out. They've done that with a few figures before, but it's cool to see again. But yeah, you can just plug those in here like that. And then in terms of storage, if we just flip underneath his wings here, we've got a few different options. The kind of typical one is just where they'll end up in robot mode, which is this on these holes underneath the wing here, which is how I prefer to have it. But you could also, if you want, peg them underneath here so they're sticking out a little farther. He also does have holes on his shoulders for robot mode, so you could plug them in there. I think that this looks the best, and that's where I tend to keep them, but you do have a few different options there if you like one of those other areas better. And then he also does come with not one but two swords here as his weapons. This one is meant for him, and this one is really meant to be Grimlock's sword. In terms of storage, you can like peg both of them on here. Again, just with like all the other leader class Dinobots, and really most Dinobots that they've ever done, is I don't really like the storage there. I think that, it's not integrated enough for my liking. Like, you could, peg them on underneath the arms, which is a little bit better, I think, in terms of like getting them out of the way, at least for him. But again, because the other Dinobots don't all have like great storage, I tend to just leave the weapons off to the side and call it a day, but that is where you can put them. But yeah, in terms of articulation, he's got a few things going on here. The wings themselves, so they are tabbed into the arms. I mean, you can untab them from the arms and it's kind of fine, but they also do bump into the legs up here. The arms themselves also do have this joint that is specifically for the wings, so that you can kind of click them out one, so they're not just like flat and stock straight. So it's got a little bit of like a, what will end up being a butterfly joint in there to get the wings to just angle up a little bit. There also is a double hinge right here, so you can kind of fold this section around like that. The tips of the wings here just kind of unfold like this for transformation, so they don't really do anything else other than that. And then his head here can bob up and down like that, all the way like that, so you can have him standing up. He does have an opening mouth with the blast effect port in there, like most of the other ones have had, which is nice to see. And then his little feet can, they're really tight, but they can swivel forward and back. So you can actually get him, standing up in like this configuration if you want, which I think looks pretty stupid for him just because of the way that the arms are just kind of hanging out there. But yeah, you can do it. It's nice that he does have some version of that functionality, because like, with the way his legs work, and they could have easily had it so he couldn't really do that. So it's nice that he can do that. I just think that because the arms are just kind of hanging out there, it looks a little stupid. But so I prefer having him like fly like this. And thankfully he does actually have a little a port here for a flight stand. So if you just take your flight stand of choice, you can just peg it in there, and get him in an actual sort of like flying pose, which is pretty cool to see. He's definitely a little bit wobbly on there on mine, but that works pretty well, and I enjoy that he's got that functionality, just so you can actually have him on display flying, which is cool to see. In terms of comparisons in this mode, just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see how large he is compared to a deluxe and robot mode. For a previous swoop comparison, here he is with Power of the Primes Deluxe class swoop, who again, other than Grimlock, I feel like in terms of the shaping of the dinosaur modes, I tend to actually prefer the Power of the Primes ones, though obviously in terms of like the G1 details and just the size overall, the Studio Series ones are better. But I think that this one just pulls off the the sitting down pterodactyl mode a bit better than him, because yes, his arms are just kind of hanging out there too, but it's not quite as bad as the Studio Series version, which is weird to say, but neither of them are like super incredible just because of the nature of the alt mode. But I feel like it works a little bit better overall, and as I like the way that his legs are a little bit more integrated into the back rather than like sitting way down here. But I still think overall this is a much better figure just in terms of the actual shaping of the alt mode. I think that this one does have some points over it. And then last but not least, here he is with our other 4 Dinobots. We can get the full crowd in here if they'll even fit on camera together, since they're all kind of huge figures. But yeah, there they all are together, and it's a pretty good looking crowd shot here. He's kind of hiding them a little bit, but yeah, no, it's great to see all 5 of them together. It's, I was a little bit worried about how they were going to do Swoop, because it sort of feels like alt mode wise, he should be significantly smaller, but I feel like this scaling actually does work pretty well. He's definitely maybe slightly bigger in comparison to the others in dinosaur mode than he was originally in the cartoon, but he feels small enough in that it's like in proportion, and he's not like a ridiculous size or anything like that. He's definitely the smallest out of the 5 of them, as he should be. But it's not small enough that he looks like super out of scale in robot mode, for example. But yeah, that's what all 5 of them look like together. And then we can get onto the transformation here, which, like I said, is actually fairly simple for him. He's not too complicated, which again sort of makes me feel like they could have done something a little bit more with the arms. But whatever. I'm just going to leave these on here because that's kind of where they end up in robot mode as well. But first thing we can do is just take the like jet booster things here to be his legs and just untab them from the back here and just fold them out like this. And then you can kind of take the little toes, and they sort of have a slot in the knee that they kind of fit into. You don't fold them all the way down. They just kind of sit at an angle in there. And then you can take the feet, fold them out of the leg, and then fold out the heel there, just like that. And that's pretty much it for the legs. For the arms here, we'll just untab them from the side, and then the arms here, they click in really, really securely, and it's actually like super annoying to get these out of there. Like, you really have to use like both hands, and again, like, I'm sure that will loosen up over time, but it's just annoying because like you can't get like a good thumb on here because he's got these little like vents sculpted in that actually make it a little bit like jagged and uncomfortable to do that with. So like you could just take the sword and push it in there to unlock it. Hopefully that, like will resolve itself over time. If not, you can just like sand down these slots a little bit, because those peg in like way more securely than they really have any right to or need to, because like the joints themselves are not like loose or anything, so they don't really need to click into place as hard as that. Again, for such a simple transformation this guy has, it does kind of suck like how there's just a few things in the transformation that are just a real pain to do. But yeah, once you have that, you can take the entire chest section here, and you want to separate it from itself. It pegs in. I usually do it this way by like cracking it that way, and then you can kind of fold it out to the side like this, and you want to widen it a little bit just so you have the clearance to take this little neck bit here, fold that up, and then take the whole pteranodon head and just fold it down like that. And then there is a slot underneath the beak here that will go into this section on the waist. And then for the head, again, this is the other section that's kind of annoying to do, is the crest here actually tabs in pretty securely to the head, and it's really annoying to actually get that. I usually find that I have to get it from both sides, kind of put my fingernail in the eye slots and then untab it like that. But again, it feels like the kind of thing you should just be able to do with one hand. It also looks like it's scratching off some of the paint there on the crest. Like, that's not for me because I grab it by the eye section. So, I don't know, not the best, but it's okay. So you fold that section down, then you can fold the head back up and kind of lock it into where it was in his sort of like upright position, and then fold that back down. And then lastly, for the wings here, I guess if you wanted to, you could just leave him with the wings outstretched like that. But he does have, the capability to fold these up more and make them look a little bit more accurate to the G1 cartoon. And it's kind of some neat geometry here, because you actually take the wing tips and you fold it up like that so they'll tab into place, and then take the whole thing and double hinge it around so it kind of sits onto the back there like that, which is neat. It definitely, does give him that sort of like smaller wing profile that he had in the cartoon. And there we have Swoop in his robot mode. And yeah, he looks really good. He's definitely a very good looking figure. Again, not without issues, but in terms of the actual look of this guy, you can also lock the shoulders back into place there. I definitely think he gets the job done. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you can rotate it around. He gets a little wiggle back and forth, which is nice and expressive with him, since he does have like the very tall head there. The shoulders can rotate around like that before they bump into the wings, can go out to the side. Again, he does have that like one-click butterfly joint there, which can be kind of helpful for some poses. Unfortunately, these sections of his body really do not tab into place very securely. Like, they're supposed to just like loosely go over these like circles in the head, which also are painted. So like, I don't know, if it were a secure connection, then it would probably rub the paint off over time. And as it sits right now, it's not. Like, they kind of tab in, but it's this one always kind of wants to work itself off, and it does not really stay in there super well. So I wish that had some alternate way of tabbing in, but if you just hold that in place, it's not too terrible. He's got a bicep swivel. He's got like a degree over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow there. He does have a wrist joint, and the wrist can also bend in for transformation if you find that to be useful. He's got a waist cut, which doesn't go the full 360 just because the beak bumps into it at some point, but a pretty decent range there. The hips can go forward and back and out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel. He's got a double jointed knee for transformation there, which is cool to see. And then the feet can tilt out to the side about that far. They can't really tilt forward and back. Like, you can tilt it back a little bit, but because of like the shaping of the piece that the foot sits inside, it doesn't really accomplish much to do that. Excuse me. So yeah, decent articulation. I will say that the joints on him feel a little bit loose too. Like, they're all very kind of like soft ratchets. He gets away with it in comparison to some of the other Dinobots because he doesn't have like a humongous backpack like some of them do. So he, if he had a backpack like Slag or Sludge did, then I guarantee you he would be like flopping over like they do. But because he's, has a fairly centered like, center of mass, like, it actually works out for him, which is cool to see. But still, I feel like those joints could be a little bit more robust for a figure of this size. In terms of his weapons, obviously you can give him his missile launchers here and have him hold it in his hands. He does have like a little cutout there, so it actually fits in his hand as well. Or you could just leave those on the wings, which is what I usually do. And then you can give him the swords here. I mean, obviously this sword is really the one that's meant for him, whereas you can give him this sword, but it's Grimlock's sword, so I don't know if you really need it with him, but he can hold both of them. And then in terms of storage, he does still have these peg holes on the back, so he could peg both of the swords on there, which kind of awkwardly lie off the back, but yeah, it's okay weapon storage. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, first of all, just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see definitely towers over him there like he should. Here he is with Power the Prime Swoop. Obviously, a much better proportioned robot in terms of like the actual scaling with other figures, but also just a better looking robot mode in general. Definitely a lot more G1 accurate. Well, I feel like, again, with a lot of these guys, it's sort of been the case where it's like, oh, you've got ups and downs for both of their alt modes. The robot modes on the Studio Series guys really just take the cake compared to the Power of the Primes version. And that's like ignoring size as a thing. Obviously, these guys are much more the size that you'd want them to be. But yeah, that's what the two of them look like together. And then last but not least, here he is with the other 4 Dinobots. And yeah, you can see definitely a great looking crowd here with the 5 of them. And yeah, no, I'm really happy having all 5 of these guys. You can see he's a little bit shorter than they are, which is fine because I feel like he stacks up, but he is a little bit smaller, and that's okay because he's supposed to be kind of the smallest one. But yeah, I feel like that they all look pretty good together, all things considered. Again, I've got my quibbles with like especially like Slag and Sludge about like the way that their joint setups are. I think that these two also have a fiddliness to their transformation, which is a little bit annoying, and Snarl sort of has that to an extent too. And also he does have like the floppy side to side hips, which is not as big of an issue. Grimlock is just a wonderful, perfect toy. And it's a shame that, you know, the other ones couldn't all be like quite at his quality, because really it's like when talking about the 5 of them, like this is maybe my favorite figure in my whole collection. He's definitely up there. Like he's a really, really good figure. And the other 4 of them are like good but have their issues basically. But yeah, I would say probably Snarl is my second favorite, which is kind of a shame because Snarl is probably my least favorite Dinobot overall. And yeah, the other 3 are all kind of on par for me. It's really just like the knees that are a problem for Sludge and Slag there. And some of Swoop's issues are just like simplicity, and then some of them are, I think, things that will work themselves out over time, like the tabs for the hands and the head crest being like super annoyingly tight. But yeah, no, overall I'm pretty pleased with him, and I'm pretty pleased to finally have all 5 of the leader class Dinobots here. It's definitely been a long time coming getting this journey, and yeah, I probably won't really need to buy any any Dinobots ever again. I doubt they're ever really going to top these guys in terms of like definitive G1 Dinobots. But yeah, a fun figure, all things considered. Oh, also, I guess we should show off Grimlock here, actually holding his sword, since he finally has that now. I'm pretty sure that this sword also came as an accessory in like the comic edition Grimlock, but yeah, you know, it looks good. Again, it doesn't really have like a great place to store in alt mode, aside from just being like pegged onto his hip, which is still not something that I really like, because I feel like it kind of messes with the look of the alt mode there. But for people who really want to have the sword, it is nice that Swoop does come with this for him. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Studio Series 86 Leader Class Swoop.